Hey guys, oh my gosh. So honestly, I thought when I established Splendid Chat that it was gonna be much easier than recording a video, like a video where you see my face and stuff. But honestly, it's actually kind of harder because I think when I actually film a video, you have a better idea of what I'm trying to say, maybe based on my facial expressions and my hand gestures, maybe, possibly. But I think when you hear my voice, it could be interpreted in a different way than I intended. So I'm trying to like just say the right things and not screw up and, try to minimize as much background noise as possible. But honestly, y'all, I'm filming right next to a window. I'm gonna fix it. Inshallah, I'm gonna fix this. I got some suggestions by a lovely sister, and she told me some of the things that I could do to improve my sound. So I'm gonna try it out. But for right now, I'm just gonna have to do with do. but so basically, I'm just gonna be talking about fitting in. And I think this is something that a lot of people, if not all people, can relate to and have struggled with. And some people come to terms with it, and some people, are still struggling. I, for one, am still struggling. No, I'm kidding. I'm struggling a little bit. However, I think for the most part, I am doing the best I can. I'm starting to realize that, hey, I am different in a lot of ways, not just one way, but in many ways. Um, Me being a black girl, me being a Muslim woman, me being a woman, what else? Me being a child of immigrants and so many different reasons as to why I am different, especially in regards to where I live. I live in the United States. I live in Florida. I live in Orlando, Florida. And for the most part, it is a diverse city, but I think it still has its issues. It's not as diverse. And I also want to preface, I realize that, I think, yes, in every major city, like diversity is perfect. I love diversity, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, that sense of feeling like you are a sore thumb, like that doesn't necessarily go away. Because even within a diverse area, you can still be a sore thumb, if that makes sense. So, and yeah, but I'll get into all that later. But I would also love it if you could subscribe to my channel and also tune into Splendid Chat, maybe when you're driving or when you are cleaning, washing dishes. I don't know, girl. I would also love that, and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I definitely want to actually start uploading. I'll probably, you know what? I'm gonna make an actual podcast account and upload this to like um the actual podcast app, because I call this a podcast, but this is not like on the actual podcast app. So inshallah, I think it'll be more fitting for me to do that. So this will probably be like episode 1, but we'll see. We'll see where this goes. So yeah, fitting in. Something I've struggled with a, most of my life. Well, no, actually, not even most of my life. I think specifically, I would say most of my teenage years, I have just felt um, the need to change myself in a way that is more pleasing to others. So, what I'm trying to say is, I wanted to be as normal as possible, but also be liked by many, and kind of stick out, but in a good way. Not too much where people are like, girl, what the hell are you doing? But enough for me to, feel cool, feel good about myself. So basically, all in all, I was looking for validation, external validation, which is not good. Okay, that is not good. Unless it's coming from Allah, it's not good. So that's all I'm gonna say. So, I've had a hard time with it. I think a time where I specifically struggled the most, and this was like my pit, was when I started high school. And I think starting high school in general is just a hard time. In your teenage years, I think it's just one of the hardest times when it comes to self-image and being confident. I think it's just a really, really hard time in your life. So I had a hard time, especially when I was in high school, going into high school. I'm already dealing with all this internal issues, and then I have to start a new school where I barely know anybody, and I have to make new friends, and I have to establish myself, and it was hard. And I think a story in particular, so hang tight, I'm going to tell a story. I'll try to make it short. The school that I went to, among a lot of things, um, the people there were very different from me. They came from different backgrounds, different. They had different values than me, and I remember in particular, like, people were very into shoes. Now, the school that I went to was very sports heavy. Like, I would say maybe 80% of the students played some sort of sport. No, I didn't, because my parents didn't want me to. They wanted me to focus on school, because hashtag African parents. And I wasn't able to play sports, and I didn't really understand the sports culture, especially when it came to shoes and name brand shoes. A lot of people valued shoes, and if you weren't wearing name brand shoes, you weren't it. You weren't it, and your style wasn't it, and you were just probably a nerd, or I don't know what they considered lame. So, going into high school, that was kind of me, because prior to that, I didn't care about shoes. I mean, whatever looked good. I went to Payless, honey. Like, what looked good in Payless. Like, my mom took me there. She was like, you know what? Like, whatever looked good in Payless was good for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wear sandals, and I would wear sneakers, but they weren't name brand. They were just, cute sneakers, but they weren't, what you would consider, poppin', quote unquote. So, I went to the school, whatever, and I didn't really pick up on this until a couple days in, couple weeks in. And then I realized, like, I remember once, I actually, no. I think this was when I did kind of realize, like, oh, this is, like, everybody here, like, loves shoes or whatever. So I remember I had this pair of DC shoes, and I thought they were popping. I was like, okay, as soon as I walk into this campus, all eyes are gonna be on me because I thought this was, like, cool. I thought this was a standard. I thought this is what they were waiting for, what everybody wanted. So there were these DC shoes. I think they were DC. I'm pretty sure they were DC shoes. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, look up DC sneakers. And that's what they were. And they were blue. They were like neon blue, or like a pop of blue, a hot pink, and they were also black, and they were high tops. So I rolled up to school with my DC high tops, and I remember I was sitting in English class, and one kid who was sitting next to me, he looked over at my shoes, and he was like, "Girl, what in the hell are you wearing?" And I was shook. I was like, "What do you mean? These are DCs?" These are DCs. What do you mean? And then, he said whatever he said. So then I realized, okay, maybe these are just not it. They're not what's up. So, I realized, okay, I think everyone is into Nikes and Adidas, because that's what everyone was into. When you're playing sports, those are kind of usually the shoes that people wear. What a lot of sports players advertise, either Nikes or Adidas, for the most part, or Jordans, which is, I think, also linked to Nikes. Anyways, so I told him I had a pair of Nike shoes, which I didn't even know. I just thought they were regular shoes. I didn't even know they were, like, popping. I had no idea. I didn't even know what Nikes were. I think my mom did, but she didn't care. Like, it was just shoes. So, I remember I was like, oh shoot, okay, I have a pair of Nike shoes. So I was like, okay, I need to pair them with some Adidas socks, or excuse me, some sort of socks, like some sort of name brand socks. So I told my mom, I was like, Mom, please, can we just go to yada 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 store and get me some good socks? So we went to Kohl's. We went to Kohl's, And they have some like sneakers there. They have like name brand stuff. So I found a pair of Adidas socks, so Adidas white socks. So I was like, okay, shoot, yeah, all right, I'm gonna wear them with my neon Nike shoes, neon green and gray Nike. It sounds bad, but it's not as bad as I'm making it sound. And I still have them to this day, actually. So I was gonna wear it. I was gonna pair the two, roll up to school, and it's a wrap. Like, it's a wrap. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So I went to school, went throughout school, everything was fine. And then, this is actually going to be really sad from here on out when I finish the story. And it's actually going to be painful for me to even say it because to this day it still kind of makes me sad when I think about this. But so it was lunchtime and, I was waiting in line to get my food. And then I remember vividly three guys who were on the basketball team. They came and they kind of like huddled together and started laughing and pointing at my shoes. And I saw them in my peripheral vision. However, I like pretended like I didn't see them, but I knew exactly what they were doing. And honestly, to this day, it still hurts my feelings. I don't talk about it. I don't tell anybody. Like, I remember my sister was there when I was she was there when I was in she had lunch with me, and she was and I sat down and I started crying. And oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. Okay, I'm not gonna talk about this anymore. But anyways, that's what happened. Just thinking about it like makes me kind of emotional because it was just like just really mean and like yeah. So hey guys, sorry, I had to like pause because I started crying. But I'm not trying to be dramatic, but yeah, that sucked. And, it was just a time in my life where I can definitely remember, me trying to bend over backwards just to, you know, please others and trying to go out of my way to buy something that I don't even find all that in a bag of chips. Like just it wasn't something that like if it wasn't the norm at my school, I wouldn't even bother, trying to buy these Adidas socks or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And it just it was just something that I stuck with, and I just realized in life you are not going to please everybody, and fitting in is a goal for the most part you will never achieve. And even if you do achieve, I mean, at what cost? At your happiness? Is it, I mean, I think it's just unfortunate that, so many people go out of their way to do such things. And it was just really sad, and it was just really something that I try and I think about a lot here and there. And it was really hard for me to tell this story. Just because like I didn't realize how bad it still kind of like made me sad. I'm not gonna cry on camera though, but like, it just goes to show that fitting in is really kind of a waste of time. Now, when I say fitting in, I mean fitting in to please others. I don't mean, because I think when maybe are going into a culture that is not yours, I think it is important to respect that culture, and do whatever it takes to I don't want to say assimilate. I don't like the word assimilate, but adjust in a way that is I guess in a way that is appropriate. But to completely change yourself for other people, that's where it becomes a problem. And there are so many instances where I felt also where like I felt like I was just not um dot 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 enough, if you know what I'm saying. So like I never really felt like I truly fit in a certain circumstance. Like, for example, I don't know if you guys know, but I am Nigerian American. I feel like I say this a lot, but I'm Nigerian American. I love my culture from the moon and back. But I think because I'm familiar with two very different cultures. Sometimes I might not feel Nigerian enough. if that makes sense, because I was born and raised here in the United States. Or I might not feel American enough because I do have my Nigerian culture. Now, honestly, I mean, y'all, I'm not gonna sit here and lie, Nigeria all the way. I'm not too bothered with, like, not feeling American enough, because it just is what it is. Like, even if I wasn't Nigerian, I'm black. And I mean, there's still the factor of, okay, if you're black, are you quote unquote American enough? You know what I'm saying? But I mean, there are instances where I don't feel like, for example, Nigerian enough, because I am, um, you know, American. I'm Nigerian American. Or there are instances where I don't even feel, where I felt like I'm not black enough, especially when I was in high school. I went to a school that was predominantly black and Hispanic. So, like but at the same time, like, because I probably will make a whole, you know what? I'm going to make a whole video on this, and I'll probably have a guest. We'll see how this goes. But in the United States, most black people, I can say maybe, yeah, most black people are African American, which is different from the African background. So, like, because I probably didn't grow up listening to this sort of music or eating this sort of food, like, I didn't grow up, I didn't grow up eating collard greens and fried chicken and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Even though I love me some fried chicken. But I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with jollof rice. I grew up with agusi soup and tulle and plantains and all that, like, all kinds of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Waina, all that, But, like, so in that aspect, because I didn't grow up very familiar with the African American culture, some people be like, girl, are you even black? And I'm like, yes, I am. I'm black. I promise I'm black. And just, like, I'm just different. And then it took me until I was in high school, or wasn't, no, not high school, like college, I started to realize, like, no, it's because we're from two different backgrounds. I am, my background is, West African, of a West African background, and your background is African American. So, that doesn't mean I'm not black. It just means that my culture is just different. And we have to also realize that as the black community, like, y'all, there are so many different kinds of black people. But again, I'm gonna make a video on that. That is a video idea. So, and there's also instances where I didn't feel Muslim enough. So, I am, I already said this, but I live in Orlando, and I would say predominantly most people, I think most Muslims in Orlando, I want to say, are either Arab or they're of some sort of Desi background. And, and then there's just everybody kind of other, you know what I'm saying? There are a lot of African American Muslims here, but I think in my immediate area, most Muslims that I come in contact with are either Desi or Arab. So sometimes when I'm in a Muslim setting and there's not people like me, like, I don't feel, I'm like, oh, am I Muslim enough? Like, I am Muslim enough, obviously, because being a Muslim isn't a race. But when you are in an area where it's mostly such and such ethnicity, you feel out of place. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm just like, oh, I don't feel Muslim enough. I don't feel this enough. So it's just so many aspects where, maybe I or you might not feel such and such enough, and, fitting in can be difficult. Fitting in can be very difficult. So, yeah, y'all. So that's basically all I have to say. Yeah, I feel like this was a really good discussion. I feel like I got a lot out of my chest. I feel good. But if you can relate, definitely, I would like to hear what you have to say. And until next time, you guys, I will catch you on the other side. I hope you had a splendid chat with me. Cool. Bye.